in. Let us know where you're watching us from. We'll give you a little shout out. If you're joining us on Zoom, know your audio is muted, but you can still raise your hand if you have a question or enter it in the questions field. These sessions will be recorded and posted back to avid.com later, so you can take a look at them or share them with your friends. So we're, again, happy to have with us Sebastian, who's one of our RTG artists. He's going to be doing the presentation today. And Sebastian, I know you have a lot to cover in this last session, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Welcome everyone to this webinar. We are going to see everything related to databases from Maestro News and Maestro Live. So first, we're going to start by doing a quick comparison between Maestro News and Maestro Live. How do they work and what do we find in each one of these control softwares? In Maestro News, we will have pages and tickers. In Maestro Live, the same are going to be actions, pacers, which work the same way as tickers, data groups, and widgets. Then inside the pages in Maestro News, we will have page controls, as we already saw in previous webinars. And inside actions, we will have CI parameters. Both are for sending data into the scene exports. Then everything in Maestro News is triggered through events. In Maestro Live, the same is triggered through commands. This is a quick comparison so you can find how you can search for same elements in different softwares. Then both of them have global parameters and both of them work with data sources. So keep this in mind during this webinar because we're going to start with Maestro News and then we're going to switch to Maestro Live. So we're going to switch from one type of item to the other type of item. Let's start in Maestro News. We are here in our Maestro News layout. This is the page editor where we build the pages. And I'm going to start building a page for using external data source, which means that the data of the page, it won't be entered by the operator, but it will come from an external data source. So for this webinar, I have prepared 3 types of data sources, which will serve as an example. We won't have time to cover all of them because, as you know, there is a lot of type of data going on, and every time we have more and more, but I choose 3 categories that are the most common used that will give you a hint on how do we work on data source inside Maestro News and Maestro Live. The first one is an SQL server. So I created inside my SQL server a database, and inside this database called webinar, I created a simple table that has 3 columns, an ID, main text, and an upper text for a lower third. This database that I created in SQL Server is accessed through Access. I created a connection between Microsoft Access and that SQL database. So now I have the chance of filling the database from Access to the SQL Server. So the first one is going to be an SQL Server database. The second example is going to be an Excel sheet, which is the most common for many of you. And the third example is going to be an XML file. We're also going to cover an RSS feed. So let's start in Maestro News. I'm going to start with the Excel file and the SQL. So I'm going to open a page that I already created. This is a basic lower third page. In this case, we have 2 fields, which is the up text and the main text. Okay. Now I can go here and just fill this data manually, like this, or I can just connect the data to a database. Okay. So let me check this. And this example, I think I will use the other lower third, this one. Okay, good. So how do I connect this page controls to a data source. The first thing we need to do is to create a connection between Maestro News and an external data. So I will go to the data source tab, which is here, data sources. I will click on it, and you will see that in my data source list, I don't have anything yet. I will create a new connection between Maestro News and one of these external data sources. Please keep in mind that the data sources don't need to be on the sheet drive, like the textures or the scenes or the productions or the pages. In this case, the data source can be on any location that the PC can reach. They can be online, they can be in another computer, they can be on the desktop, they can be anywhere, as long as the PC has access to that file or that location. So I will start by creating a new data source. Right click on the list, add data source, and I will start with the, here, let me just show you this really quick. When you create a new data source, you have two fields, factory name and type. So you have many types of data sources. We will go through some of them, and you have two types of what is called factories. That is a native DB layer factory and .NET DB layer factory. I find more friendly to use .NET, but some other developers like to use native. They are not really, you don't have that much difference between one of the other, but we're going to go with .NET in this case. So inside the .NET factory, I have the option to connect to a TXT file through an ODBC. An ODBC is a connection between that is made through the PC, creating an ODBC connection. Then we have database, which is for SQL, and we have Excel file. So I'm going to start with, let's say, database. Okay. So as you see, when I select this factory and this kind of database, I see that I have the server type to choose, which is SQL Server. Now, I need to enter the server location. So I will go to my SQL Server, and I will copy this location, and I will place it in here. Then the database name. I will go back here. My database name is webinar. So I will go back to the Maestro, and I will enter that database name. Then my credentials, which are my credentials for accessing that database, and I will give a name to this data connection, which is SQL Server. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm connecting Maestro to this database by setting up a server location, a database name, and the credentials for accessing it. I can test it. It's all good. And there you go. You see, I don't see it here yet because what I have here in this column that I'm pointing here are filters. So I'm going to go and select the .NET SQL filter because I created an SQL connection using .NET. If you go and zoom in here, you will find that it says .NET SQL, which is the type of database I just created. Now, when I click on that filter, I will see that I see that those kind of databases. Okay, so now let's see the properties. We are all good. Now, when I select this data connection, Maestro is going to access whatever I have in my database. So how do I see the content? Here, you have a wizard that will give you like different tabs to do different things or send different commands to the database. In this case, I want to see the columns that I have in my table in the database. So I go to query columns. And there, you see that I see the table. I only have one table, which is called webinar. And then I have 3 columns. I will select the 3 of them and use them. So I will select ID, main text, uppercase, and how do I use them for my page? After I select them, I click on the right arrow, and that will add them to my query results. Then I can choose to select the ID and put it first. The main text, you can see here that I'm using these little arrows in second, and then the upper text third. So this is the order that the columns are going to be displayed. Now, when I go to query result, what you will see is that I have the columns that I brought from my database. These columns are filled through access and written to the database. Now, I will save this query as lower third, let's say. So this is a query. This is a request of data from the database. Always when you create this kind of request, you need to save them in here before you can use them. Okay, now I'm just selecting all the data from these three columns. If you go to query editor, you will see that here a query is being written by the orders that I'm using in each one of the tabs. When I do something on the tabs, this will create a query in here automatically. When I select the three columns, it will create this query. Select top 100 from webinar ID, which are the columns, and that will bring everything from these three columns. Then, now I have everything that I have in my lower third sheet. But what if table? Sorry. What if I want to bring a specific line? So I need to apply what is called a filter. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to select one of these lines and bring only that one. So how do I apply a filter? First, I need to have in my page something that filters the information. So I will go here to my controls down here, and I will add an integer value like this one. I can name it ID, and I will make it from 1 to 55, something like this. If you want to see how to create controls, you have previous webinars. Then at the end of this webinar, I will show you where you can find previous webinars on how to create controls and this basic stuff. So here I have a control that is an integer number, and I will use this one to change the number and use this number to select one of these lines by its ID. So when I choose here number 5, I will only bring, on number 6, I will only bring ID number 6, that specific line. So what I need to do is I need to put a condition to this query that I don't want to bring everything from the columns. I just want to bring the line or the register where the ID number from the column is equal to the ID number I have in my control, okay? So I will use this control as a search parameter. If I go here in query parameters, I can add parameters to my query that will be used as a filter to select only specific information from the whole data set. So now I don't have any parameter. If I go to page in here, I have all the controls that are now in my page. I will select the one I just created, the integer value that I called ID, and I will drag it and drop it here. Now, this parameter is going to be my filter. How do I apply this filter? After I create a parameter that will work as a filter, I will go to query conditions, and I will add a new condition with the add button. Now I will select that I want to bring everything from my data set where the column ID from my table is equal to this value. So I will go here and search for that parameter. You will see that the parameter has percentage signs after and before. So you will see that the parameters are really clear to find. This is a parameter that I added here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm bringing everything from my data set where the column webinar ID is equal to my ID controller I have in my page. And that will bring only that specific register or line. I will save this. Now I need to make a link between this information and these boxes. Basically, I will drag and drop. I will select the main text, drag and drop it to the main text. I will select the upper text, drag and drop it to the upper text. And that's it. So if I select, let's say, the line 1, you will see that I have the information from the line 1. I will go to my access database. I will create a second line. This is a second main text. And this is a second upper text. And that's it. When I go back to the Maestro and I select the number 2, you see that I already have that information available. So you can have a producer, a text producer filling up this information, and the operator will only select the number of ID that they want to show, which will make really quick the workflow between external data and the page. Now that's the only thing that we need to do. I will save this page. Now I will go to the layout. I will add a new random. I will add this lower third. We will see it here in preview. I will connect. And now if I play the page, you see that in here, in the page, let me just expand the bottom window panel, sorry. I have here selected the number 2. I will select the number 1, I will play, and that will change to the number 1. I select the number 2, and that will change to the number 2. Let's go back here, and I will put another one. This is a webinar for data sources. And if I go back to the Maestro and I select the number 3, I already have it there. I play, and that's it. It's really easy to do. The process of selecting columns, adding parameters, and placing conditions is always the same for any kind of data source. So if you work with XML, if you work with SQL, MySQL, if you work with an Excel sheet, it will always be the same. So I will create a new database connection, in this case with Excel. I will do it really quick. .NET Factory, Excel file. You can go over this tutorial after and see what I'm doing, because I need to do it really fast. We need to cover a lot. And this I will save as Excel. I will test the connection. Perfect. Now I don't see it in my list. I will check in my list for this filter, .NET Excel data sources, and there you go. I have it there. Again, if I go to columns, I will see all the columns I have from my data source. I will bring them to the right. I will select to use a parameter. I will go to my page and select which one of my controls is going to be the parameter. In this case, the ID. And I will create a condition. I will select everything from my Excel sheet where the column ID is equal to my parameter. And there you go. It's the same procedure. I will save this as lower third. Remember, you need to save the query after you build it in order to use it in the page. I will save it. And then I will drag and drop this in here. And I will drag and drop this in here. And I will save this page as lower third Excel with a different ID. Now, if I go to the layout, I have the same page connected to two different types of data. The first one is connected to an SQL server, and the second one is connected to this Excel file that I have here. As you saw, the procedure is just the same. You just need to change the type of database. So if I change here the ID number, I can change the content. Let's say I want to show the information number 6. And that's it. It's really simple. Now, with this, we already covered SQL and Excel. Remember that in SQL, I'm using Access to enter the data. You can use any application to write data on an SQL table. Now I will go to the next example, which is the RSS. We can work with this RSS. In this case, I just search for a random RSS to use. And as you know, these RSS feeds are live news from different news providers. And you can just, if you have this kind of services in your broadcaster, you can connect your graphics to that service and show the same news that they are showing in the website, but on screen, because Maestro News will be able to read the information from the web page and put it in an on-air graphic. So I will create a new connection in Maestro. In this case, I will connect, add data source again, and I will choose to use a specific category that is called news. In this case, we're gonna receive a feed from a website, from an RSS feed, okay? Now, here it's asking me to specify the URL address from the website. So I'm going here, I will copy this link, and I will go back here and paste it. I will test the connection, let's say, successful, and I will name this as RSS. Basically, I'm connecting the Maestro to the news feed using the category news. There you go. Now I will go to the columns. I have a lot of information coming up. Let me just open a page that I already created for this. So in this page, I have a place for the title and I have a place for the text of the news. So let me check which one I need. I need from the information category that I'm getting from this website. You see that I have different categories. So I have a category that is called information. I will select to use the title and the description from each news. So as you can see, it will bring me a title and a description for each one of these feeds, these news that I have in the feed, sorry. So in this case, I'm going to do something different. I will select only the column title, and I will select this option that you have here. Let me just do a quick zoom in. Select all data from query. When you go to the tab Query Results, you can select all the data that you're getting. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to save this as title. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm bringing all the information from the column title. And I'm going to select all this information, and I'm going to assign all the information from the title column to this element. Then I will go back to the data source, and I will create a new query. In this case, I'm going to bring the description column. Same as before, I have everything from the description column in here. I have select everything, select all data from query, and I will save it as information, let's say. And I will select everything from here. Now, when I go to my timeline, I play the page, and you can see here, let me just expand a little, I have the title in here, and I have the information down here. What I want to do is I want to make it go from this new to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. I want to make the data source advance to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. So I will do something that we already saw in another webinars, which is use a script and a signal. I will do it really quick. After I play the first take, I will wait, let's say 5 seconds, and I will send a signal that is called update, and I will create a track that will receive that signal and will update the data. So in my first take, I'm going to say both of them to go. Let's say I will put this in the queue. Better. There you go. So I will put here this script in the queue that I will say to the item upper text dot index. Index is which index of this data set I want to go to. In this case, I want to go to the first one, so I will set it to 0. Then I will say to the lower third text to go to the first index, and then I will set it to 0 also. And then I will play the page, I will send the signal, and I will say that after I send the signal, I want to increment the index 1 unit. So it goes to the next title and the next information from the column. For doing that, I will use this script in front. This will automatically increment 1 value. So in the queue, I will be putting this in 0. Then in the play, I will show the first information. I will send a signal, and every 5 seconds, it will increment 1 index in my data set, and it will do the same. Update the information on screen, play the animation, wait, and send the signal. So it will create a loop that every 5 seconds, it will repeat this action. And then on the out, I will just play, I already have it. I don't need to create the out. I already created, it's here. Out, wait, and deactivate. So in the queue, I'm setting everything to go to the first line of each column using the script that set the index to 0, and then it will go 1 index at a time using the script. Remember to put return true, so it will continue. So it will go 1 more index, update the information, wait 5 seconds, send the signal, and it will do the same again and again. I will save this. And if we go back here, let me just go to the playout, which is better. And now I will select the page. And when I do queue, it will go to the first one. When I play, every 5 seconds, it will advance to the next news that I'm receiving from here, okay, automatically, every 5 seconds. So as you can see, the connection for the data source, the process is always the same. You create a data source connection, you select a table, columns, you apply a condition if necessary, and then you use that in your graphics. Okay, I will need to go a little faster because we need to go to Maestro live also. I will do one last example. In this case, I will do an elections example. I will do it really quick. I will create a new connection, and I will select the other type, which is XML. And I will use an XML file that I already have. This file is in my computer, and I will save it as XML. Good. Now, when I go to the columns, I have all the information that I bring in from this elections results. I will select the first name, the last name, the party, the state, the percent, and that's it. That's what I want. So if I go to the results, you see that I'm getting all the information from all the states: Louisiana, Illinois, Nevada, everything. So in this case, I want to apply an order maybe. I won't apply any order. I will just leave this query as results. Now, I want to create a filter for this query that I will have an element in my page that will select which state results I want to see. Maybe I want to see Louisiana, maybe I want to see Idaho, Kentucky, Minnesota. So I need to have something, a drop down or anything in my page that will allow me to select a specific state. So I already have an element here. What I need to do is I need to load the information from all the state list in here. So I will go back to the data source. I will create a new query. In this case, I will select the state column. So here I have all the states that I have in my XML file. You see some of them are repeated. So I will go back to the query editor tab, and I will change from wizard to editor, and I will copy from wizard. Basically, what I'm doing here is the query that is building automatically Maestro, I will edit it. And I will add a command from SQL that is called distinct, that will bring only one of each one of them. Only one Louisiana, only one Illinois, only one Nevada. And I will do one more thing. I want to have this column ordered by alphabetic order. So I will go to query order in my tabs here, query order, and I will select, in this case, for XML, we don't have it available because I'm using editor. So I will do it manually. If you want to order the results, you can use the command order by, and you select which column is going to give you the order, and if you want it ascending or descending. In this case, I want it ascending. You can find many information about how to build queries online. There are a lot of sites related to building queries. And in this case, as you can see, when I add this command order by this column in ascending order, I will have all the states in ascending order. I will save this query as states, and I will drag and drop all of this in here. Now, when I drag and drop the whole result into a drop-down element in my page, I have everything in here. Now, I will go back to my results query, the one I created before. I have everything. I want to do the same as I did in the lower third. I want to apply a filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to conditions, and I'm going to add a new condition that I want to bring the information where the column state is equal to this parameter. First, I need to add the parameter in my parameter list. So the control I'm going to use as parameter is state title. So I will select this control, drag and drop it here. And now I will do the condition that I want to bring all the information from the column where the column state is equal to the content of this control in here. There you go. Now this is bringing me only one result. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an order that I want to put the candidate that got more votes on the top. So I'm going to order by percent in descending order. So that's it. Now I will have both of them filtered by the state and ordered by the percent column in descending order. And as before, I just need to drag and drop in here and in here. Let's do it really quick. As you can see, I already have all the controls prepared. And the percentage in here and in here. Now I need to create a quick script for the party color and the peaks. So I will go, let me just go back in here. I will create a page script. We already had a webinar on this. You can search it. I will go here to control script, and I will create a script that will select this last name and add the path of the file and the extension, and we'll send it here because I need to send here a file. So I will put the path /Biden/PNG. So I will say that this page candidate pick 01 data is going to be the same as this page candidate set current candidate last name 01 data. Okay, now I need to add in front of it the path of the texture, she textures / this value, and with the plus sign I will add at the end the extension, and I will do the same for the second one. There you go. I will save this as photos, save script, and I will execute the script every time I change the last name. So every time I change the last name, the script is going to be executed. So it will change the picture to this path, the last name of the first candidate, PNG. Okay. Now I will associate the script to the change of this control. So I go here to the control. I don't have any script assigned. I will drag and drop this one here. Sorry. So when I drag and drop, every time I change this control in here with the last name, it will execute the script and it will send to the images the image that needs to be loaded. I will check it. If you go here and check it with the play, you can see it. I will do the same with the colors. I will create a new script, page.current.candidate party color data is going to be the same as page current and party candidate party letter 01 plus data, and I will add in front of it she drive textures / plus PNG. There you go. And now I will do the same for the second one. I will say this as colors, and I will assign it to this control in here. I will test it. There you go. Now I will save the page. Now if I go here and I drag and drop the page, every time I change in here in my drop-down the state, you will see that in Illinois I have different results. There you go. Now I will change to Louisiana, and if I play again, I will have different results. So every time I'm changing this drop-down, it's changing all the information because I'm using this as a filter as I was using the same in here as a filter. So this is how you do it in Maestro News. I don't have much time to go over Maestro Live, so I will do it really quick. Let's go to Maestro Live and let's find the similarities. Then you can build it yourselves. Okay, in Maestro Live, the data source are created through devices, data source manager. In here, you will be able to create new data source connections. Now, I will create a new connection called SQL Server, the same I did before, so you can see how the similarities between one and the other software are. I will select SQL. Again, I need to place the server name. So I will go here, copy my server, go back here, and the database name is going to be webinar, and the user and the password. There you go. I will test it. Excellent. Now, if I go to my lower third, I have a page. This is like a page, but it's a control. In here, in Maestro Live, I will edit it. And I will go to the data tab. And if I use query, I will select the SQL server. And I will use, in this case, I need to write the query. I can't use the wizard as I do in Maestro Live, in Maestro News, sorry, but you have a helper that will help you to write the query while you're doing it. I will do it really quick. Select everything from webinar. You see that it's already showing me the table. And I bring everything from here, okay? Now, as I did before, I will need to add a filter to it. So I will go back in here and I will use what is called a data group in order to have a list of all my lower thirds and select the one I want to use. So I will go to controls, I will add a data group in here. And as I did, let me just move here, as I did before, I will connect this data group. Like this data group is going to be the same that I do here when I select all the content from a column. It's the same. When I select all the content from a column, I get like a list to use, okay? In this case, I will create that kind of list using a data group and selecting all the content from the table. So I will go and select everything from webinar. There you go. And that will bring me everything. Now, I have 3 columns. I want to use one of them as my filter. If you see here, I have what is called value column. So I want to use the ID always as my value column because it's going to be my filter column, the one that is going to tell which line I'm selecting. Then the other ones are just for displaying. Okay. Now, if you see, I see that here I have this list with all the data that is on the data source. What is going to happen is when I click in here, it will send the ID number, because the ID number is my value column. It will send that to a global parameter, and I will get that global parameter and use it as my filter in my query inside the action. So I will go to my action. I will create a global parameter in here, lower third. That's it. It's just an empty global parameter. Then I will go here and I will say that I want to assign to this global parameter the value I have in the column ID. So basically, when I click on the column ID, I will assign that value to this global parameter. Now, when I go back to my action, you see I'm selecting everything. I want to select only one, so I will use a filter using the where statement, where ID is equal to something. In Maestro Live, when you want to use a query parameter, you use an interrogation mark, okay? And below, you will need to specify what is going to fill your interrogation mark, what is going to be that value. So you can put a name, let's say my lower third, and the value is going to come from the global parameter that I selected before. Okay. There you go. So when I click on number 1, number 2, number 3, this value is stored in a global parameter, and I'm using that global parameter as a filter in here to bring only that line. Now I will add GI parameters, which is the same as adding controls in a page. It's the same. I will add one for the main text. I will put it to show in input windows. I will add one for the upper text. And that's it. I will link the value from the main text to the main text GI parameter. I will link the value from the upper text to the upper text GI parameter. And now I will go to the graphic items. I have everything here already prepared. I need to put a value to my export. So I will go to the GI parameters tab where I can find the GI parameter that I just created. And I will select the main one in here, the upper one in here. So basically what I'm doing is, let me just close Maestro 1 second and start the render engine. What I'm doing is I'm clicking in here. Let me just show you the global parameters. As you can see here, I have the global parameters. When I click on the third line, the global parameter lower third is changing to 3. And that is going to be the number of line that this action is going to bring, because I'm using a filter in here that is the value from that same global parameter. So now let me just place this in this side and this here. There you go. I will change to on-air mode. Now, when I select this element, let me just connect and load the graphics. I will play the graphics, and you see that I'm getting the value from the first one. When I click in here and I play again, let me just go back to the control, and I'm getting the value from the second one. When I click on the third one, I'm getting the value from the third one. So basically, we are doing the same. In this case, I'm clicking in the lines. In Maestro, I was changing the value. And you can replicate this in the same way that that I did in here to other uses like the elections and everything. I did a list in here. It works the same way. I select, as you see, I select a state. That state is stored in a global parameter, and each one of and this control in here uses that global parameter as a filter and bring only the information from that specific state. You see that it's playing automatically. This is because in the data group, you can say that if you want, you can play an action when you do click on the data group actually. So as you can see here, I said that store this value, the value column to a global parameter, and also do queue and play to the lower third action. So what will happen is that every time I click in here, you see it's doing queue and play to the action. So basically, this is how we will create the actions that will call the data from the data source and how we assign them to GI parameters and then to the exports. I will do one more thing really quick so we can finish. We need to wrap this up. I will show you how to create a connection to an XML. In this case, you have a whole webinar on advanced XML that you can check, but I will do it really quick. I will create a new connection to advanced XML2 because I already have one. I will select advanced XML. and I will select a source name, which can be a file, this one. And as you can see, it's bringing me everything from my XML file. So what I do in this case, I select, I want to use, let's say, this node, and automatically this will be converted to a table. And then I can use the same queries that I do to any other table, and I can filter the information. This is something new from Maestro Live that is not in previous versions. So it's really useful because doing queries inside XMLs in Maestro Live or Maestro TX, it's kind of hard to do. You need to put the nodes like node 1 / node 2 to enter the second, and / node 3. In this case, you select the node you want to go, and that will create automatically a table. You put a name to that table, and that's it. Then from the control, you will just do a select to that table and show the data, like I'm doing here. I created a table, and I'm bringing everything in a table format automatically. What the advanced XML does is convert the XML file into a table. Everything that we saw today is on the Avid webinars live online learning, which is this website. Just let me zoom in. In here, you will find the advanced XML feature. You will find how to create controls, scripts, and everything I did today. And you can work on that also looking at the previous webinars. Remember that everything that I show is recorded, so you can later check it again. You can always write down if you have any doubts, and she will come back to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sebastian. That was a good segue. Let me go ahead and pop up the slide for our upcoming sessions as well. That was a great session. My mind is blown about how much detail you definitely need to add in the background before an event, right? In your case, you're covering the election, like how much linkage with the databases you need to make sure you have all that connected way before the election period when you're ready to use them. So that was an awesome session and great refresher for all of that. If people do have questions, you can go ahead and post those now. We'll try to get a few on. I know we're running a little bit over, or like Sebastian said, you can reach me at liveonlinelearning@avid.com, and I'll gladly get your questions over to Sebastian and get those answered for you. We do have 2 media composer sessions coming up, one tomorrow and then one next Tuesday, and there will be a Pro Tools one on Thursday. But this is our last graphics one for a while, so I want to thank you, Sebastian, and the graphics team for doing such a great job with these webinars and refreshers.
Thank you so much,
everybody
Tom.
out there.
It was really cool to do, and our pleasure.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we'll maybe have some more towards the beginning of 2021, and maybe we can do Olympic prep or something. So, all right. So with that, I don't see any questions right now, but as Sebastian said, these are recorded, so they'll be posted back to online learning webinars at the avid.com page. So thank you all for attending, and enjoy. Have a great day or afternoon. Thanks.
Bye-bye.